Alright, so worst toys as a kid?
Worst toys?
Yeah,
Worst
I
toys.
have one in mind, but...
Okay,
what do you think?
Man, okay, I can't think of anything.
Nothing?
I actually really didn't like Playmobil. It seemed like Playmobil, you know Playmobil, right?
Yeah.
They always just seemed like cut-rate Legos. To me,
Younger audience, probably.
I know, I got them. The thing is, but the sets are big now. And it's
Let me tell you,
Okay.
the all-time worst. Farm toys. What kind of parents give their children farm toys? Hey, it's just saying, I don't want you to dream. I want you to get right into manual labor. Think about this life of hard work that you're getting. Just, here you are, you're just a baby, you don't know anything,
Okay,
but you're gonna know what it's like to work the soil.
The thing is, though, there are some kids who just really like big machines.
Give them a transformer.
Declan couldn't have cared less. No, Declan loves Transformers.
Sure.
Anything robots. My son Declan. But Chauncey actually likes just machinery.
To me, there's nothing more depressing
I agree with you.
than saying, hey, get ready to work, kid.
Okay, see, I always hated I thought of one. You know the little scooters or the little bikes you ride around?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great. But then there's the one kid with that green tractor thing that only
Yeah.
he pedals so fast and it really doesn't go still. What's that about?
I just saw a picture of a kid, like, playing with farm toys, and, like, that was all that was in sight, and I was just like, oh, you don't get to be a child. That's sad.
See, I think playing with farm toys with our other farm toys is really where it starts to go downhill.
Yeah.
I can see that. Because the thing is, if you're playing, like, if it's like, the Combine meets Optimus Prime, that could be fun.
Different.
Okay.
That's different. That still has Optimus Prime. There's still imagination.
As long as we don't have, adult music playing on the background or something for that.
Right.
Ow.
Hey, everybody, it's Feedback Damage. How's it going?
Hey!
Hello. Hey, I am Mitch.
I am Jared.
We have a special guest today, straight from Heroic Adventures, our judge on the Saturdays.
Head judge.
Head judge. Here it is. Introduce
Drake.
yourself.
I'm Drake. Also known online as Hlyrmghyll. That's LLYRGHMNGHYLL. Hlyrmghyll.
You may have seen him on the Realms, but you'll never be able to say that name in person.
I heard him say it twice right now and I still don't get it.
Yeah.
It's easier to hear than it is to read, though.
Okay, why?
I was in high school.
And you pounded your face on the keyboard a couple times?
It's actually based on. It was from the Darkest Rising series. I was learning how Welsh words sounds put together. And so I tried to come up with the longest name I could create that technically doesn't have any vowels in it, and where nothing is obvious from the way it's spelled. Because the double L is actually hla, not la, but hla.
Okay.
And so yeah.
Well, there it is.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that.
But that it makes sense?
But it makes sense. I do not think it makes sense. It's a story.
It is, okay. We'll go with that.
As long as you're comfortable with what it is, that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, so let's get right into it. Drake, you are our special guest, so we're going to talk a lot about you.
Okay, then, do you want me to go in my history?
That would be
alright,
fantastic.
My history of gaming. I actually didn't play games almost at all, other than Solitaire and maybe Cribbage.
Legend of Soltar.
Cribbage. Does anyone know what Cribbage is? Yeah.
I know of it.
Can you add to 15?
Yeah.
And then I picked up chess when I was probably around 20. And at the same time I did that, I probably started playing Final Fantasy VII. So I really got into at that point in time, I really got into the strategy games and the RPG games.
Okay.
And I played those for a long time, and I was a big fan of them.
Good world to get into.
So in 2000, I moved to California, and I ended up at this apartment building, and my neighbor from upstairs asks me to help him. No, I need help moving from one apartment to another apartment in the same building.
Okay.
And he says he'll help me, but I got to play this game with him.
That's creepy.
And, well, we'd sort of talk. So we go up and he shows me the figures, the little superheroes. We'd sort of talked about superheroes before. He was a big comic guy. He was actually a aspiring artist.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's working in independent comics now, so.
Neat.
Yeah. So I go up there.
Shout out to that guy.
Yeah, that's Rich Kurtzy. Anyway, hi, Rich.
His name is Jim Lee.
his name is Joe Caseta?
Yeah.
Something like no.
Yeah.
No. So I go up there and play with him, and we sort of I fall. I fall hard. The game was, of course, Heroclix.
For him?
For Heroclix. Okay. I was happily married and still am at the time. Now, which is the time.
Yeah.
And from there I go on, and I end up playing for a couple years, and then I get kind of bored, and I actually at that point switched to.
No, what year was that?
That would have been 2002 or 2003.
So right when.
So yeah, that was
okay.
Infinity Challenge. I think when I started playing, Hyper Time had just dropped.
Okay. Wow.
Hyper Time was brand new, so I wasn't in there at the ground floor, but about as close as you can get.
Yeah.
So yeah, I played for a couple years, and I got bored because there was a lot of power creep going on at the time, and which is not different from anything else. So I got into the game Star Wars Minis, and I played, and I sort of juggled those two games back and forth for about 5-6 years.
Okay.
So about 2010, actually, I think. And at which point I finally just sold off all my Star Wars Minis. I also played some other games at that time too. I really got into the Lord of the Rings Hex game.
Yeah.
I still have a ton of those figs.
Yeah, I saw them the other night, and those look really cool.
They are some of the nicest made minis I've ever seen.
Hey, whiz kids, take notes. They look awesome.
Yeah, their Balrog is that is a sculpture.
Yeah.
It was $50 to buy it, but you couldn't get a $50 sculpture of the Balrog better than that.
Yeah. Let's just put that up against Shuma, and
Shuma
can't hold a candle.
Shuma does not hold a
literally and figuratively.
Well, he's an octopus man, so
he doesn't have any hands.
Well, you think you could be able to wrap one of the tentacles around him?
You'd think, but anyway.
So that's my history of gaming, and then of course, I think it was in 2009, Heroic Adventures was trying to get something going, and I was more into the Star Wars Minis game at the time. But I figured, okay, they need somebody to run it, and I made sure that things would go on for a while, and then they started getting prize kits in, and I said, well, rather than me just playing and winning them, I'm just going to judge and take my prize. Because I was, no offense to anyone else, I've been playing for a long time, and I knew the rules well. Mm-hmm. And it was, so that's when I started judging. It was around 2009, I think.
Okay.
And so I've been off and on since then as a judge. Mm-hmm. And,
it was about a year later is when you met us and taught us how to play the game.
2011, so it would have been 2000.
Was that 11?
Yeah, it would have been 2012.
It was 11.
2011 or 20, it might have been 2012.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then of course, as you guys, as everyone here is well aware, I also really got into designing 3D terrain at the time too.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you have any memories specifically of us trying to figure out the game? Anything?
I always assumed there's a reason I'm not great at getting people into the game. I always assume that the game costs too much, because it does, and that the rules are too complicated. Because honestly, I can say at this point, I would not have picked the game up with the rules as complicated as they are right now.
Right.
So, I'm always just happy when people come back.
Right.
Okay.
I really am. I remember you guys coming in to play, and I remember roughly running you through the game.
Yeah.
I was the Hulk.
That's right. You were the Hulk. Were you Superman?
Superman.
You were Superman. Yeah.
Yeah.
You still have that piece.
Yes, I do.
So do I.
Actually, I don't have that one specifically anymore because it was a misprint. He didn't have the logo on him anywhere.
Oh.
It was weird. I don't remember.
Now you should have kept it, because then it could be like a rare collector's edition or something.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Except that they're
misprints are
so
every day.
Painted. Yeah, the misprints are not a rarity from
right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I've seen John Constantine's with the eyes like a little bit off their head, you know.
Who was it that was pulled the other day that had the entire eyes like right here?
It was Justice. He had his beast.
Oh yeah, his
from the X-Men team base.
Yeah,
really.
It's like he showed me it, and I saw it straight on. I'm like, oh, that's weird. They forgot to paint it. And he's like, just kind of like shifts it a little bit to the left, and there's like all the details.
Yeah, it's pretty much his right eye is right over his nose.
Yeah.
His left eye is over the temple, and his mouth is somewhere between his chin and his bottom of his mouth. It's pretty bad.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that's...
But we have plenty of painters at the store. Josias paints. So.
Does he? I've not seen his.
Yeah, he's not bad.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. All right, so you've seen it all. You've been there from essentially the beginning, most of the way through, and you have some thoughts on now versus then and everywhere in between, right?
Well, the one thing I will say is that the power creep going on right now in the game, if we're going to get into this right now, the power creep going on right now in the game is probably more extreme than I've ever seen it, but not markedly.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's always been, if you think about clicks in stages, you have essentially the following stages of Heroclix. There was everything from Infinity Challenge to, I've gone over this on the Realms at one point in time. Infinity Challenge to right around Legacy. Basically, Legacy was probably the end of that era. That was the era of dials that just plummet. They just go nowhere. And Legacy was sort of the height of that because Legacy you had the ridiculous starting values. I mean, KC Superman, well actually not KC Superman. He has a great starting attack, 13, but KC Green Lantern is one of the obvious ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Prized piece of mine, because it's Alan Scott, one of my favorite heroes. But yeah, you start with a 12-20. At that time in HeroClix, you couldn't hit that.
No.
And not if you, especially at that time, you would be carrying, Destiny.
Yes,
which is a 21-point prop piece.
I have one, yeah.
And, actually, no, it would have been before Legacy that things changed, because, Legacy was the end of that era, but it was around Legacy, I think it was right around Legacy 2 when we come into the second era of Clicks, which is the introduction of feats.
Oh, yes.
Which, of course, almost nobody plays with anymore because it's just too complicated. Once you start including feats in with special powers, it gets insane.
Let alone resources now, too.
Let alone resources. So the feat era was the second era of HeroClix. And that's when feats dominated things. Everyone knows the original best were things like Protected, but Protected didn't come out for a while. Protected came out in Armor Wars. You also have Stunning Blow, which allows all your in-cap people to deal damage as well, and of course Fortitude, which protected you from Exploit Weakness and Outwit.
Mm.
What was the one that you basically could transfer all your damage to an action token?
That was Protected.
Protected. Okay.
Protected.
Wow.
Yeah.
Protected was, and yeah, the thing is, you could only have one of them on there, but you didn't play in Worlds without having Protected on your guys.
Right.
Oh, sure.
But then from after that era, we go to the carded era.
Mm-hmm.
And then pretty much from the carded era, we go until the carded era, and then there's the modern carded era, which started when NECA bought them.
So like Justice League Avengers all the way to Hammer of Thor?
Hammer of Thor is right that's when NECA took over.
Okay.
Although technically it was designed by the previous team.
Yeah.
But it also was not Seth Johnson design. Because
introduce our listeners to who Seth Johnson is.
Seth Johnson.
Yeah, and me, because I don't know.
Seth Johnson was one of the designers. The original era, the pre-Feat era, that was the last designer, the person who did Legacy. That was John L. I don't know what his last name is. But Seth Johnson was the one who started after, and Seth Johnson is the one who really took the game from we're going to make top-heavy characters that just go down to wave characters who start good, get a little worse, but then get better, or where the dials go up and down, people get powers later on. And really, Seth Johnson, I think, is responsible more than anyone for exploring what the mechanics of the game can do.
Yeah, because I noticed at the beginning sets, you have really top-heavy stuff where if you have a power at the beginning, I mean, if you have a power at all, it's going to be at the beginning of the dial, and then it's going to dive off later.
Well, I mean, you can look at characters like the most extreme examples I can think of from the first two sets they were both meta pieces early on in the game. Are Hawk, who's usually forgotten, rookie Hawk, and of course the more well-known Firelord. Firelord, of course, you can create a 61-point figure with 11 attack, 3 damage, and range combat expert. And keep in mind, at that time in the game, he came out before when flyers could carry flyers. Mm-hmm. You could take an action after taxi.
Ooh.
And so what you had then is anyone who could carry was valuable. Anyone who could carry sheep was really valuable. Vulture and Manbat actually dominated the game in a lot of ways at that time because Vulture and Manbat were both sub 20-point characters that could carry your big bruiser forward. Didn't matter whether or not they needed to, so they carry them forward, they shoot you. And so the thing is, we talk about, like, there's a lot of complaints now about games being really short and Alpha Strike being important. Alpha Strike has always come back. It hasn't always dominated the game, but it's always come back.
Sure.
The only times I can think of when it really didn't dominate the game were actually in the top scene, and I could be wrong here. Were when Lamp ruled the world, and
define Lamp.
Lamp. I was going to get back to that. When Lamp ruled the world, and then during the era of Metron.
Yeah.
Metron.
So Lamp. Let's go back to Lamp. Lamp stands for Lockjaw, Armor Piercing, Mastermind, Poison. Lockjaw is one of the most broken figures the team has ever made.
Okay.
And I still think to that day this is true. Now he came out after Flyers could carry he came out after Flyers could carry fire. He's a transporter. But what you have, it really didn't matter which one you wanted. You had a guy who could make an attack, possibly hit you. He'd be hitting with 6s. I think maybe max 7 because you have the transporter move and attack ability. Subtract 2 from that. So he's still only hitting with a 6 or maybe a 7, but he deals 2 or 3 damage, depending on which version you have. But the more important thing is you have a character who's approximately 7 to 9 clicks deep, most of the time with toughness, less than 45 points.
Wow.
And with phase teleport, again, the move and attack ability, so it can carry, and a 14 range.
Whoa.
The way this worked, so that's your Lockjaw.
Okay.
Now the way this really works is you get this character who has Mastermind and Poison. Mastermind so they can deal the damage off, Poison so that they can just hurt somebody. Now you put Armor Piercing on a character with Poison, that goes right through any defense.
Interesting.
And this also, keep in mind, this was also ruled the game back when when Flash and Green Lantern were the big threats. Well, a 20 defense where you can just poison them isn't scary.
Sure. And
especially when the dial's tank.
When you're explaining it like that, it reminded me just a bit of the GCPD cruisers with this huge dial, hits you every turn no matter what, and you can't go anywhere.
It's actually not, I hadn't put that together, but it's not terribly, it's a little different.
Sure.
But it's very similar. Actually, the GCPD cruisers they do sort of harken back to that Lamp period. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. It didn't click to me until you were explaining it all out.
I don't go through this all the time, but yeah. So that was Lamp, and Lamp dominated for a while. It was actually beat one time by at Worlds by a Superman, that icon Superman, who's of course a legendary broken piece. There have been 3 broken Supermans in the game. The first was KC. The first was the first Kingdom Come Superman. KC stands for Kingdom Come. For those people who don't know, the first KC Superman, who at 265 points had a 13 attack, and at the time in the game, his dial didn't tank. He still has a 9 attack the last click.
And at that time, that was still big.
9 attack was huge at the time. I mean, it was good. Now, there were characters, keep in mind, the highest printed attack value on a single base figure, I think, is still from Infinity Challenge. I think it's still Infinity Challenge Thanos. I don't think anyone trumps a 14.
I don't
No,
know.
15.
I've never seen it.
He's got a 15. He goes 13, 14, 15, 13, 14, 13. I think it's a 15. I have to look it up here.
No, go on.
But he was never meta because he didn't have any real damage abilities on him. Anyway, so looking at the eras, yeah, it is 15, 13, 14, 15. See it right there.
Wow. That's big.
That's big.
That's real big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were still trying to figure out what was going on in the game at the time.
No, that's not the biggest. Let's see. The mighty
Single base.
Single base. I'm sorry.
Single base. There are colossals that have 16s.
Okay. I just have my app that said highest attack to lowest, and
Yeah.
Thanos,
There's a 16.
sorry, Galactus should be the highest.
Mhm.
Galactus or Spectre.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you want to get into the original Galactus, that thing is still broken to this day.
Yes,
Will
it
be
is.
until the end of time.
Ew.
And that's because of the cosmic multi-attack.
Which essentially grants you the ability to attack each turn without taking damage.
You attack each turn without taking damage, but you also get, unlike multi-attack, where you get 2 attacks, cosmic multi-attack, you get 3.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing 8 damage, that starts to hurt.
Yeah, 2016,
Oh.
21-8.
I was playing my Guardian of Fear wrong then, this entire time, because he has cosmic multi-attack.
No, he has multi-attack.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
The only character that has ever been released with cosmic multi-attack is the original Galactus. I'm 95%.
But rightfully
sure
so. I mean, it's Galactus. Come on.
Well, I think the other ones work fine without it. I mean, I think that, keep in mind, they re-released the original Galactus with a fresh new paint job
Yes.
in
the Avengers set.
And no
the
sticker.
Avengers set, and he just had multi-attack, and he's still fine. Cosmic multi-attack was unnecessary.
Sure.
But the thing is, pieces like those have usually been considered, they're not really pieces on the board, they're scenario pieces.
Yes, exactly.
And it's fun to play them and try to figure out how to beat them. And so those are not really the same thing as meta. I don't really have a problem with those.
Except Starro. Fighting Starro is not fun.
Starro is, the only way to beat Starro is to play him for him.
Yes.
Or to play the
Team
Justice
of Battle Fury.
That's what scares me about Justice League. Not that the Justice League should be able to beat Starro. That doesn't bother me at all. The problem is that Starro is...
You're talking about the team base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
But it is a point because there was a lot of conversation about one of the ways you know that team bases are broken is that team bases can beat Starro. Well, that's scary because Starro is incredibly frightening.
Yes.
He is not a fun piece to play against.
No, not at all.
When I first got him, I played him at 1,000 points, took on 2,000 points of 2,200 points of people, and still won.
Okay. Right, so we were at
Okay, so we were
getting into the carded set and finishing up the pre-NECA.
right. So I was going to tell you the other feat that made Superman great was Ra's al Ghul's resurrection. What does he call it? Lazarus Pit.
Yeah.
And what that did is it allowed you to heal a character back up after they died.
Oh,
You had to have another character on the board, so that was actually a fun world because he had a whole bunch of pogs. And he
Hilarious.
would run the pogs around trying not to die until Superman could resurrect and go and KO the rest of the team.
Ugh.
Yeah. He actually did manage to beat a land team. But the poison, the mastermind poison was usually done either by Madam Hydra or Joker. There was a lot of argument back and forth over whether or not the Rookie was better, who only had sported a 9 attack, but they all had Outwit too.
Interesting.
They had Outwit, whereas I don't believe Madam Hydra had Outwit.
Okay.
Also, now, I wanted to go back and touch on the John L. designs at one point, because one of the things you have to understand about dial design is why Firelord was one of the most broken characters in the game.
Okay.
And it wasn't just that he was top dial heavy. I mean, you can look at him and realize that he's great, but it was also that his back dial was so weak.
Really?
Yeah. Which meant he sported a 9 defense, I believe, at the end. I'm going to look at the Rookie here.
Yeah, 7.
Yeah, so he goes to, well, the thing is, at that point, it takes too long, but you have to understand that in the original version of the game, healing was far more important because you didn't subtract 2 from the roll.
Really?
Right, so you have to think about that with the ability to carry. flyers. So Man-Bat carries up Firelord. Firelord shoots that 17 defense. Somebody hits his 17 defense. He just carries him back to Medic. Medic can hit a 10 defense, 11 or 12. 17, 16. We've gotten away from things where you skip 15 and 14.
Wow.
Yeah, you can see what it looks
17, 16, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7.
Very long dial, so you can put a couple medics on your team. Now, the other thing you have to understand about this is that when you go back then, teams were built out of, the original, I think, it might be in the first and the second worlds, were actually 200 points, not 300.
Interesting. So 66 was still kind of significant.
66 was still, there were characters more than that, but I mean, you couldn't play Superman in them.
No.
Superman was over any of the decent Supermans.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it started moving towards 300 points. But it stayed there for a long time. It's also why leadership was actually better at the beginning, and it got steadily worse as time went on. Until the recent change. Recent for me, you guys have never seen leadership where it doesn't remove action tokens, but that's only in the last 3 years. Before then, leadership just granted you an extra action token.
Mm-hmm.
But in a 200-point game,
you get 2
where
actions.
the average cost of a figure is around 30 to 50 points, leadership makes a huge difference.
So it wouldn't have mattered if you were adjacent to anyone, you just rolled leadership, no matter what.
You get 1 extra action.
Right.
Right.
So
you still get that extra action, it's just people always forget about it.
Right.
you have 4 or 5 figures, but an action pool of 2,
Mm-hmm.
the leadership would...
On the other hand, you can only roll leadership once. You can only get the effect of leadership once.
Oh, interesting.
So the reason to carry, on the other hand, it propped on a 4, 5, or 6.
Okay.
So you carried 2 leadership rolls to make sure you get that extra action. 3 actions to 2. This is also why Justice League and Avengers were better team abilities back at that time too.
Yeah. Now they barely do anything.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that you can look at the time was that
Well, the Green Lantern ability.
Hypersonic was actually Green Lantern was amazing. One of my favorite teams is built around the older teams.
I've heard of the Green Lantern tank.
I referred to mine as the spinning wheel of death.
Oh, good.
What it was you put Trick Shot. Trick Shot was one of the other big feats. What that does is if you have Ranged Combat Expert, you ignore virtually everything on the board. You ignore all characters on the board.
Interesting.
You ignore stealth. You can hit a character even if see through your characters and their characters.
Huh.
So you put that on a Green Lantern who has can carry a whole group of people around him. You make sure one of them can throw out, 2 of them can throw out smoke cloud, so you can throw out smoke cloud every turn, and then 2 of them, and then you have a front line of stealth blades, and then you add a lot of enhancement and PD on that.
That's disgusting.
So you end up with he can hit for like 12 attack for 5 damage, and then if you go up and hit him, you just get blades to death, and he can always just pull away because you can't actually get you
don't base him,
you
base
carry,
the other figures.
Yeah, so that was actually a lot of fun.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And back then, when you could carry other flyers, that made it actually viable.
Well, that was actually that never came about.
Really?
He was actually the first Green Lantern that actually didn't drop in Hyper Time. He dropped in Cosmic Justice, I think.
Wow.
And from Cosmic Justice, we can actually look at it on here. Cosmic Justice, Indy dropped right after it. Indy was the biggest rule change in the game. Because Indy was when the 3 big rules, flyers can't carry flyers, no action after taxi, and the rule of 3 came out.
Ah, okay.
Big changes.
Big changes, especially considering at the time you had one of the other really broken figures in the early game was the Con Artist.
Yes.
Con Artists, they will never not be worth their points. You push them once. Keep in mind, they were actually worse when they came out. Because taking that extra action to push them cost you more in the early part of the game.
Yeah.
With some exception, one of the other changes that happened when Indy dropped was that Pulse Wave was changed so that originally Pulse Wave, you could Pulse Wave your own team. Just so long as one character was in it. So what you would do is move your guys out, use Pulse Wave, activate all your Con Artists.
That's kind of gross.
It was. It was very gross. One of the reasons I'm going over this right now is because there is some unpleasant power creep going on in the game right now. But we need to keep in mind that it's not really new.
No.
And compared to the early power creep, which was just mechanic based, this is at least based on comic accuracy.
Yeah.
At least that's my opinion on it.
Or comic inaccuracy.
Well, I mean, Spiral's ability makes sense.
Oh, sure. She does. Comic inaccuracy meaning cop cars.
Cop cars are comically inaccurate.
Yeah. But we'll get to that part.
Comically
inaccurate.
Realistically, physically.
Comically. LOL. Yeah. Comically inaccurate.
Comically and comic related inaccurate. So yeah, I didn't mean to jump all the way back to the Infinity Challenge, but I wanted to go over a lot of the history of the meta.
Yeah. A lot of this power creep, like, we are relatively new to the game when you think about things in the long run. So we came into the game at the time Galactic Guardians was coming out, or just came out.
That was a really nice balanced set, which is of course one of the reasons why people don't like it.
But like, there's a lot of this stuff that we just never were a part of.
Yeah, this is one of the other figures that I wanted to talk about.
So Hypertime 085.
Oh, that Hawk. Okay, yeah,
that Hawk. Yeah, you've got it
from Hawk and Dove Hawk.
Right.
From Hawk and Dove. He is one of the, again, he will always be worth his points. You push him off the first click, which is just a 6-6-11-1.
Activation. Yeah.
Activation click. To 10, 12, 15, which is garbage, defense, 3, with super strength and charge.
Yeah.
So you have a guy who can hit you with a 12 attack for 5 damage. For 45 points.
Yeah.
That's still not bad.
No, I mean,
like today, that's not bad.
You can ignore the rest of the dial. Honestly, he could come out today, not have those last 3 clicks. And instead of those last 3 clicks, his defense would just be bumped, and he'd still be played all over the place.
It's a guy who needs a hammer.
Oof.
Oh God. No. If I had a hammer, actually people who need hammers, there's a lot of stuff in the old set which could actually be highly playable with hammers.
Yeah.
On the other hand, nice thing is it's made Outsiders a lot better.
Yes.
This is actually one of the things that Marvel needs an Outsiders team ability. That's my opinion right now. Because Outsiders is one of the most useful team abilities in the game right now. And that was actually made more useful too. You guys probably don't remember when you couldn't move before you Outsided. You did it at the beginning of your turn.
Yeah. Really?
That was also
this is just any time, which is really nice.
Yeah, it's basically on par with Outwit at this point, especially with the amount of buffs going on in the game.
Sure. All right. So anyway, back to the meta.
Right. So from Lamp after Lockjaw finally retired. Lockjaw is what makes it work because you have a character who has just an obscenely long, cheap dial.
The new one wasn't too.
Oh no, he's no.
I mean, he was a nod to the old one.
There was stuff on there. Here, you can take a look at the rookie. Here we have. He's only
6 clicks deep.
But for 24 points, you get 2 clicks of toughness, only a 12 speed. But
still, that's pretty good.
Also, you have to remember at this time in Heroclix, you didn't subtract 2 from your movement when you carried.
Oh. See, then you go to the 38-point veteran one. 8 clicks, 38 points. Jeez, there's your 14 movement.
There's your 14 movement. You got your movement attack. Yeah, you're only hitting for a 7. You're only hitting with a 7. You're probably not going to hit those 17s, but you might. And when you do, you're dealing 3 damage on top of carrying around a major character. All three of them were played. There were people who had arguments for all of them.
Wow.
And you compare that to the modern.
The Chaos War one came out.
He's great, but he's 82 points.
He is 82 points, but he is the nod to the old versions.
Certainly. I mean, it makes sense with him. He's a fun piece, but he's not.
He's not that still broken meta type build.
Well, the point costs are really some of the other things we can go out because there was what was called I'm trying to remember. It wasn't actually called your pit crew.
Okay.
In the early part of the game, you would bring your pit crew and your beat stick. And the pit crew was usually somebody, and this was especially popular after, it was popular before, but popular after. Your pit crew, you would have somebody who would heal, probably Jane Foster if you were good enough. Jane Foster is a 14-point character who has willpower and healing.
Okay.
And like an 8 attack. And keep in mind, an 8 attack could actually hit those Nile defenses, 10s, 11s, and 12s. That's not a problem. So you got Jane Foster for healing, you have Con Artist for perplex, it's been a long time for somebody trying to replace Black Panther, who was 27 points for outwit. We now kind of have it in,
Batgirl?
No, actually, well, Batgirl, sort of. Also
Flatman?
Loki, although he only has outwit on his last click, and Flatman.
But that's another limited 100 points only.
Black Panther was 27 points for Avengers. Free movement, which keep in mind at that time was important.
Really
incredibly important. Stealth and outwit.
Yeah, that's really beastly.
That's still important. That's still good in today's game.
Yeah.
Except for, I mean, now you're talking
Actually, I would
range.
go back or Oracle on that one or Batgirl for 25 points. 2 points less. Bat TA, outwit. You still have it, but the difference here is now he's limited to the same rule she is, which is 6 range.
That was a big change,
yes.
And I think it's an incredibly important one. It's also not new that people were calling for that. People have been calling for that rule change
forever,
pretty much since Infinity Challenge.
See, the thing about Black Panther over Batgirl is that it's just the action total. Because Avengers gives you that move without...
She has GLA as well.
Ah, there it is. Okay.
So they're pretty much...
She's GLA keyword, not GLA team.
Oh, she doesn't. She loses it. Does she?
I don't think so. I'd have to look it up, but it's...
They're pretty similar.
She gets the keyword, I know that.
Yeah.
Oracle,
it's Batgirl.
Batgirl. Right. It's the Oracle portion of the dial.
It's the one from...
Gravity Feed, Batman.
So 209 rookie. There we go.
Yep.
No, she has both. She does have the JLI, but she still has to push to get it.
Yes.
And that does make a difference.
The outwit, yeah.
Yeah, she has to push to get the outwit.
Yeah.
And actually, strangely enough, Black Panther actually has a better defense.
Strangely enough? You're talking about the girl who's in the wheelchair?
I know. Okay, I'm not comic accurate. I'm talking about set-wise.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
And he's a longer dial.
Yeah, and the longer dial really, again, those long dials actually made a difference when you were carrying people back to healers.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right now it's such a fast game that you're not healing at all.
There is no reason to heal in the modern game. You will not have time to heal.
No.
Support at this point is possibly...
you have your utility belt item, and feel free.
Oh, well, that's not support.
Right.
Support is actually one of the... as much as I hate to say this, as somebody who never liked to use support actually needs a fix. At least in some ways, because...
How so?
If they slow the game down, it'll be fine again.
Yes.
But right now, with the game being over in 3 turns, you don't have time to support anyone. And it's just...
Unless you play the bat signal. You do like a big Barda type strategy where she flies all the way out there, makes her big hit. If she gets hit, no big deal. You've got somebody next to the bat signal, pull it back to Alfred or Donald Blake or Adam, and
you don't have time to do that. I don't think you have time to do that.
Really?
I don't think so.
It's just 1 turn.
Well, 2 turns.
It's pretty much, well, first of all, there's plenty of ways to go base whoever your healer is at this time.
Yeah, because they can get across the board just as quick as you can.
And once you base a healer, the healer isn't doing anything.
Yeah, it's useless.
So.
Though, yeah. You need something like Bruce Wayne, the Prime, that can do all that stuff very well.
Unless, I mean, the only thing I could think of is make it a 50-50 roll to see if it can work while based.
I think once they slow down the game, it'll be fine again.
Okay.
But I think the game needs to be slowed down.
Let's say take this Gen Con and last year's Gen Con. Last year's felt like a much more interesting playing field.
Yeah.
Because
it really was.
There were all sorts of teams. There were long games. And, there's just none of this everybody is playing a mere match.
Morgan Le Fay, who won last year, was only on, was she even on another team?
I don't think so.
Well, the other guy fighting is Masu with his Black Adam.
Yeah, that was
a beautiful match.
Props to George. Yeah.
George and Alex both did.
Yeah, no offense to Alex. I'm just saying, it makes my heart happy to see a person design a piece, get to play it, and it's not overpowered.
Yeah.
It's not. No offense to Ben. Ben, I can't remember his last name, but no offense to Ben and his Ben crawler. But
I like that piece still.
It is. It's a fun piece.
But yeah, just the fact that George also plays very different teams. Even in this year's team where you saw Ghost Rider, Scarlet Witch, same stuff over and over and over again, he played an animal team.
Yeah.
He's a good player, and I like the way he plays very much in your face. Yeah. He's a very in your face kind of player, and I like that. I mean, in terms of Click, not in terms of him as a person. I've never met him as a person, but I've seen some of his games.
He's a very cool guy.
I've seen some of his games, and he likes to put things up there, and it's not a that sort of mechanical. That's really when the game stops being fun for me. When it's this mechanical, I do this, this, and this. I don't even have to look at what your team is. Okay, that's the big piece. I'm going to hit that. Like when you don't have to look, when you only have to look up from your side of the board to figure out which piece you're going to destroy, and I think the term is non-interactive.
Yeah.
When it's not an interaction, it's just what I'm going to do to you.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the game not fun.
You have your first 3 turns set before you even put your figures on the board. Or rather 2, because that's about as long as the game lasts now.
Yeah.
So
we can go on. That gives you after the carded era, when NECA took over, they released cards, but then they pulled them out of. They kept releasing cards, but then they pulled them out of Modern Age. That was one of the big changes with Modern Age.
The cards, as in
the feats. Sorry,
the feat cards.
Feats. Yeah, they pulled feats, battlefield conditions. Battlefield conditions were also important too, and that was one of the big. In the carded era, starting with the carded era, one of the biggest things. That's also when keywords came into the game, and so theme teams. And theme teams, the rules on those have changed too. Generic theme teams were originally, if you could get a large enough group of things into something, it could be really good because you actually got 1 for every 3 generic or 1 for every 2 non-generic. It didn't used to be just the 2 for 300, 4 for 600.
Wow, so you put enough figures on the board, you have 10 or 15 props.
That's a lot.
If you could, I mean, it never hit meta or anything, but if you could really mess somebody up with a moloid, with a monster moloid army, where, moloids are 15 points. You put a whole bunch of them on the board, you're going to get just scad tons of props on a monster team. So you got fewer props. Now, of course, it's much easier to keep track of. I actually prefer it the way it is right now. But during that era, you also had, during the original era, you had feats. The original card era, you had feats, cards, which means special abilities, which were almost universally terrible, unless they were just a combination of things. And of course,
Battlefield conditions.
And battlefield conditions really did matter.
Yeah, those I actually liked the sound of.
They were, well, the thing is, you play a bat team, you're going to play darkness.
Yeah.
Or whatever it's called.
Long Shadows is what it was.
Long Shadows.
Yeah.
There were 2 different ones that did very similar things.
But the other guy could play Sunny Day, which canceled out everything else, right?
Yeah. And then there were some that were just fun, like Extraordinary Day, where 11s and 12s are crits, and 2s and 3s are crit misses.
Gross.
Yeah. I don't ever want to play that because I'm really good at rolling 3s.
Yep.
Yeah. We've all had that time.
I actually saw a post saying that what they have at their venue is, for that week, the judge will pull out a battlefield condition and say, this is what we're playing this week. Go. And then everybody would build a team knowing that this is basically like you're fighting in a different arena or something every time.
That works if you have people who bring enough to play.
Well, no. Like,
so he
it's
reaches
Saturday.
into the pool of
It's Saturday. He reaches in the pool, picks out, and says, all right, next week this is what's going to be played. So you have that week to say, hey, let's build teams.
That is, I mean, it is, that's a fun thing to do. There's a lot of fun things to do when you get into, I have a problem where I have probably 20 ideas for every scenario I actually throw out. And that's partially because, I think of the first time John and Stephanie showed up, 2 players at our store, and I pulled out my 3D terrain for the first time to play on 3D terrain, and I made it an 800-point team because I was expecting 3 people max, 600 points. I was expecting 3 people max to show up. Instead, we get like 8 or 10. No, it was 8.
Ooh. Okay.
And it was also the first time I played the infinite, the Kobayashi Maru scenario.
Okay, yeah.
Where you're going to lose, but it's just a matter of how many points you can take out.
Yeah.
As time goes on, as these two well know, I play that with my Ragnarok team, which has just gotten bigger and bigger.
Yep.
And more and more painted.
Yeah. Oh, good.
But they showed up then, and so that was like 4,000 points, and it was one person acted, go do something else for 20 minutes. Next person, more like a half hour, because it would be a half hour before I got around to your turn again.
Oof.
It was not a good idea. I think I've worked through that scenario much better.
Yeah. Sure.
With, even though there is complaining about me picking on certain people.
Hey, man, there was a couple people that were sitting there unmolested, and I just got picked on the whole time. Because
what map was that?
This was the Scrolls map, where I had Killian, Aldrich Killian from Iron Man 3, only for the fact that if you used support, because I always pack somebody with support on a scenario game or anything like that, and if you use support, you get +1 attack and damage, thinking, hey, that'll be great, right? And he also has the nullifies ATAs in a certain area around him, and you were playing Runaways on that one because you had...
Well, yeah, I was playing Zaven with Runaways ATA, because that...
Well, you had Scroll Spider-Man that gave everybody wild cards, so everybody on your team had Runaways ATA, and you were like, nope, that's not going to work anymore, so you came and blasted my entire team.
Well, Scrolls don't do anything, and Scrolls do not have enough attack to hit anything unless you use that. And when you use that... Oh, the funniest thing is trying to play a Scrolls, a full, 2,000 point Scrolls against a full 2,000 point, Universal Church of Truth. Because the Scrolls, if they hit, they all get +1 to their attacks. Whereas the Universal Church of Truth, if you miss, they get +1 to their defense. So, hit or miss, you end up with all your probs getting spent on that, all your team probs getting spent on that first roll, because it's going to color the rest of the game. It's a 2-point swing either way. Because
that's hilarious.
Yeah, that is hilarious. I played that out once, and it was literally everybody. 2,000 points. There were 20 probs, and they were all used.
Wow.
Because you can't afford to have people miss. One hit, and it's all over.
Man.
Anyway, so we going back to the meta. I haven't gone into everything there. So we were on the battlefield conditions.
Sure.
Theme teams, of course, allowed you to cancel a battlefield condition.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes. Once per game. So the thing is, it basically made battlefield conditions worthless because you could bring a battlefield, you'd bring I think because the rules were you could bring 2 battlefield conditions and then not 1. So you'd bring, whatever it was, is you'd always, one person would bring ordinary day, not sunny day, ordinary day. And, then you'd cancel whatever had that. So the thing is, it made other things much harder to play. It made it really hard to have battlefield conditions have any meaning. But they were part of the meta. This is actually one of the things I want to talk about. When we talk about meta and top tier are not the same thing.
Okay.
Meta are the pieces in the game that determine what pieces you can play, what pieces are part of top tier.
Okay.
Top tier are the best, most efficient pieces in the game.
Okay.
Meta pieces never have to enter top tier. And the best example of this is Kid Zoom. Kid Zoom was almost, I don't think he was played hardly at all on any World's teams. But he did limit the usefulness of hypersonic speed.
Yeah.
People were afraid to play hypersonic speed because if you go up against the Kid Zoom, you're going to get screwed.
Yeah.
And it's the same. It was almost the exact same thing last year. Even though it was very open, the meta piece that determined everything was Sentry Void.
Yes.
He determined what teams were viable. So he was definitely part of the meta, but not technically top tier.
Interesting. Because you had to be able to beat him to be into top tier.
Piece. It's not only you have to be able to beat him, he's something you have to consider. And that's what it is. Meta, because meta is the game above the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what you have to think about in order to even build your team.
So, this year at Worlds, at Worlds, it was
Team
Justice League Team Ace.
Team bases
and then after
totally
that
meta.
it became...
Well,
and then the top tier became...
team bases are still meta. They are still extremely meta.
Yeah.
They are just not top tier.
Mm-hmm.
And even that we'll have to see how that plays out right now. But working together is a meta power. It absolutely determines what other people find viable. And if Heroes for Hire had not been released, we would have seen team bases, more and more team bases.
I believe we'd almost entirely see Justice League team bases.
Heroes for Hire does trump. Heroes for Hire and Batmite do trump team bases, though.
Yes.
The one thing that I liked that was discovered, it seemed like it was discovered shortly after Worlds this year, was Horde Tokens, Mastermind, and Cosmic or Quintessence. Because, okay, you have working together in a 300-point game, you have 3 attacks. Alright, well, you have this stack of 8 hogs that you have to get through. No matter how much damage you do, you're just taking off one at a time.
Well, the pogs they can't be stacked.
Not pogs, Horde Tokens.
Horde Tokens.
Yeah.
Horde Tokens can be stacked, but if you can't deal when you deal Mastermind to a stacked Horde Token, you take off a number equal to it. That was one of the changes they made. I think that came out in the last book.
2015?
2013, yeah.
Really?
It was one of the clarifications. So yeah, the thing is, but the thing is, what you do is you just go up, you break them apart, and then you've got them all. Now the problem with that though is, that's meta, it's not top tier. Because it will fall very badly to a belted team.
Yeah, there was...
Because the belt, you get rid of Power Cosmic,
right.
Outwit his Mastermind, cut him in half.
There was, if you're playing a team base, you can't play a belt on it. That was...
Right, so this is again one of those things where it's meta because it limits the usefulness of team bases, but it's not top tier.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
It's second to top tier. That's where this is where these things really matter, and it's useful to have the 2 separate terms to think about what they mean.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, I think that's that. I haven't gone. I didn't lay out exactly how I wanted to go through the history of meta, but I did want to bring in some of the stuff, and I wanted you to think about. I wanted people to think about where we've come from.
Yeah.
A lot of things. And I think there is a lot that's changed, but I definitely think we are in a period where there is way too much power creep. Mm-hmm. But I'll say this, I don't think it's the worst. I don't think it's markedly worse than anything we've seen in the past. And I don't know if I said this earlier when we were recording or not, but I do think that, as bad as the power creep is right now, it is at least comic accurate. It is at least increasing comic accuracy, with the exception of cop cars.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating, but it's really only frustrating if you only care about the meta.
Sure. So before we get into some of the other topics at hand, looking back, is there anything with the rules as they currently stand that you thought maybe it was a little better back then than it is now, or anything you would personally say, yeah, I might change it to how it was back here?
There are, in the entire history of rules changes in Heroclix, there's only one that's upset me.
Yeah.
There's only one that I don't like as much as I used to. And that is, I'm thinking it was around the time of, it was before Hammer of Thor, I think it was when Arkham Asylum came out. They changed the rules to giants. No, it was when Secret Invasion came out. They changed the rules to giants, so that giants could carry, because giants originally couldn't carry.
Yeah.
And they changed the rules. They gave giants a lot. It used to be that if a giant came into contact with somebody, he had to stop.
Okay.
They used to in their giant reach. So if you had a character, 2 squares out, you had to stop if you came into close combat with them.
Interesting.
If you came into what would be close combat range.
Sure.
The thing is, that sucked, but I loved the fact that you could put a giant in the middle of a doorway, and everyone else would also have to stop if they came into that 1-2 square reach, rather than just 1 square.
So he could still swing and they couldn't.
He could still, yeah, so the thing is, you couldn't really charge a giant. And that was fun. And if you tried to charge a giant, you'd have to move up adjacent to them, break away, charge in and hit. That was one of the things, it made giants really, really viable. Now they've done other things to make giants more viable. They're much, much harder to take down than they used to be. But if you go back and look at some of those old giants, you have to understand that one of the things that they could do was actually slow people down a lot.
Could they ever be TK'd?
Okay. Originally, no. And then yes, and then no again.
Okay.
I think they could be TK'd from that Secret Invasion change up until before Chaos War, Galactic Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, because we came in right after a change.
So the thing is, so the thing for me is that, I have this, the hardest thing for me in remembering all the rules is knowing how they've changed over time and trying to remember what change goes on.
I remember, I think that might have been the time when it was the first tournament I won, but I think I won it in violation of the rules because it was when we were doing a half seal with the Justice League 52 set, and I pulled Fury, and I had Aquaman and Mira, and I had the Mira Pog because you want to boost Aquaman up immediately. But I was TKing Fury with Mira. But I think the reason of that is we started out on the Blackest Night set, which would then have still have been. You could still do that? No?
No, I do not believe it.
Well, the rule book that came with us, or with it, I think was between the time of Secret Invasion and Galactic Guardians before it changed back.
The rule book you were playing with might have actually said you could.
Yeah. When we actually started playing, we couldn't, but we owned the rule book that was old.
I got to the final round, and then I was playing Bob, and he's like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I've done it every single game." He's like, "You can't do that."
Well, was I judging that one?
I don't remember.
Kyle?
I don't
know.
know.
It was before.
See, then it probably would have been I don't try and keep track of every game going on. I just don't.
No, you can't do that.
But you do try to keep up on it, and that's one of those things where I've had to sit there. Okay, can you? No, you can't now. When did that change? And it's honestly, when you learned the game, I probably told you could.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that changed in between.
Because I thought it was like giants, but not colossals. I was like, okay, makes sense.
Yeah. Now, I'm trying to remember with carrying now, you can actually carry somebody of the same size or smaller, right? Isn't that the way carry is now?
Oh, I don't know.
Because, I think that was one of the most recent changes that nobody remembers.
I don't know if colossals can carry giants.
I think colossals can carry colossals.
Interesting.
It's one of those things.
I'm looking at that right now. Carry. You cannot carry anybody with the different movement symbols or the duo attack symbol. Speed value. Following characters cannot be carried. Large characters, multi-base characters, characters holding an object, the characters with any of the following symbols.
Oh,
I don't see anything.
Maybe
it says large characters. So
yeah, I thought there was. It might keep in mind it might actually be in their actual set. It might be in that symbol as well, and the giant characters can carry other giant characters. It might be in there. I don't know. I thought I remembered that, but then again, I could have just thought that was a good idea.
And sure.
And since it's never come up, I've never had to look it up.
One thing I've really appreciated about our store is that, unlike other venues that are out there, we don't have a bunch of like house rules that make it, like when we went to Gen Con, it was really pretty easy, pretty straightforward because we pretty much play that way anyway. So that was really nice.
Thank you. I've always been. I've tried to keep house rules from anything. I've tried to keep ban lists off. Now we were going to talk about ban lists at some point. Ban lists have existed in the game, and there were about half in the original version of the game, half the people actually banned. Firelord was heavily banned. Actually, so was Batman.
Batman, almost banned.
Batman was almost banned. It was the original. He was Outwit and Stealth was really, really broken in the early part of the game. And of course, Split Shot Incapacitate was, Two Token Incapacitate was also really, really good. I can't find Batman.
That's alright.
Because he's in the shadows.
Ooh, yeah.
He was actually, because also keep in mind he could also outwit Firelord's ranged combat expert, which kind of made Firelord
neutered.
It neutered him a bit. He was never as broken as Firelord though. Firelord was actually, there was a good lot of talk about banning Firelord. There were some venues that banned con artists. There was a good number of people who wanted to ban rookie or experienced Jean Grey for TK. I was going over this real quick with your pit crew, because your pit crew was the best pit crew in the early part of the game was obviously Black Panther. People went back and forth with Rookie Jean Grey versus Mandroid Armor. Mandroid Armor was 3 points cheaper, but Rookie Jean Grey you could push and still keep TK.
That's true.
It was a happy day when I found Mandroid Armor.
Yeah, well, Mandroid Armors, especially the rookie one, I have like 2 or 3 that I use too. And keep in mind, TK was much worse back then too, because you had to be adjacent to TK somebody.
Interesting.
And that's objects, anything. It made TK hard to use. It really only served one function. I never even...
Throwing somebody out?
Yeah, throwing somebody out. Mind you, I still have my favorite moment in Heroclix for poor Mo from that kind of TK. I TK'd out Karma, mind controlled a Superman and one other beatstick. It was a 800 point game. Threw out Karma. This is Fantastic Forces Karma.
Okay.
Who's 59 points, 11 attack, mind control, 8 range, 2 targets.
Okay.
So you mind control Superman, mind control whatever the other beatstick was. I destroyed the rest of his team and then dumped Superman in the middle of my team and we ate him. We had Superman lunch, and then I dumped his only other piece who was viable at the back of the board, so he had to cross the board again. Took the one beatstick, hypersonic, hit his own guy, dumped it at the back, took the other hypersonic, pulled it to my own team, ate him.
Your all-time favorite, was that when you brought Doom back like 8 times?
Yes, that was my favorite. I had, Doom had the Fantastic Four keyword. This is the, Galactic Guardians Doom. And, I had 2 of the Galactic Guardians Mr. Fantastics who have a trait that say, if you heal with Mr. Fantastic, you can actually roll if you hit a 6. Just 6. If you hit a 6, you can bring that person back on their last click. And so I was rolling 2d6, trying to hit 1 6, and I hit a 6, I think it was like 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
So I renamed it Resounding Doom. So Doom just kept coming back. It's real fun.
I noticed you painted one to actually, you painted one to do that.
I painted 2, actually.
I was admiring that.
I have a, where'd he go? Oh, there he is.
He's right there.
I have a blue Fantastic Four uniform one that fit with the Galactic Guardians, Mr. Fantastic and thing, and then I repainted another one that fits with the,
Future Foundation.
Future Foundation, because I have the whole set of those as well.
Now, for all of our listeners out there who can't see any of this,
That's very true.
I'm going to put this on Twitter and Facebook so you can check it out. And we will give you details at the end of the show on how you can access both Twitter and Facebook for feedback damage. It'll be great.
Rock and roll.
And this is the extent of my painting, so don't get too excited. That's all I've done.
They're nice.
I am proud of how they turned out. Now, those have been the only things that I've successfully tried to paint. I was at one point thinking about doing a Bat Lantern Corps or take the Bat family and give them all a Lantern Corps color and then make them a Bat Lantern Corps or a Marvel Lantern Corps. And yeah, they just didn't pan out so well. Too many fine details that I can't do.
So we were going back to ban lists.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
sorry.
were speaking specifically on ban list. Seems like a natural time to go ahead and just bring it up. Just this week, WizKids has announced that they're going to be introducing the Heroclix watch list, which what that is essentially WizKids coming forth, responding to the criticisms of the fan base and saying, hey, maybe, just maybe, we made a mistake here on some of these figures when we designed them. We've listened to you. We want to try to make it right. And so they've taken some of the more lamented
Controversial?
pieces, yeah,
Controversial.
and said, okay, we're going to give them another look. We don't know what that's exactly going to look like yet. That could be a ban list. It could be errata. It could be major changes. We don't know yet. Maybe they don't even know. I'm sure they're working on it, whatever the case. Now, we have a couple things that are on the on the watch list.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Team bases, but only specifically working together.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Spiral's Dimensional Portal,
Trait.
her trait. We've got Prep Time on the Utility Belt, the GCPD ATA, the Heroes for Hire ATA, the GCPD Cruiser, Batmite, and Brother Voodoo.
Yeah, Brothers Voodoo's trait.
Yes, his trait.
Yeah, Batmite is all of his power. I mean, just
Yeah,
all of him.
Batmite's everything. So, let's go straight from the top.
Well, first off, I really hope that they don't go ban list. I don't like the idea of ban lists, because a ban list only does one thing, and that makes the top tier go away, and then everybody plays second tier broken, and then when that goes away, they play third tier broken, and then that has to go away. Then you play fourth tier broken, and then that goes away, and then you have, crap for every game.
And the other thing is that you have people who are paying for figures that they can't play. And yes, that's not cool, especially when you're talking about somebody like Batmite, who you're laying down $80 to $100 for him. You should not find out that you can't play him.
Yeah.
That's just not cool.
If we're talking a limited, okay, for this scenario game or for this tournament, we're gonna like a single tournament at a single venue, not a global ban list, but like hey, we're gonna try to play something a little bit more toned down or whatever. Let's take out some of this stuff. This is the parameters of this game. Sure. Okay, that's fine. That's a scenario. That's not a global ban list.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Global ban lists, I'm not a fan of. Scenario play, I love.
One of the things bounced around at our venue was the suggestion that everything that is on the watch list be given a purple ring. Yes, no?
Purple
What say
ring?
you?
Purple ring is essentially banning it.
Essentially.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Now, you guys know what my original idea was on this, but I'll bring it up
Yes.
here again, which is the idea of the, what was it called? The Omega list.
What was it called?
I have a horrible memory. And the idea with the Omega list is you basically take the top tier, the top meta, and you grade them on exactly how broken they are. And then you can structure each of your events based on, how much Omega, what is the Omega level of the event. So let's say we have, okay, this is an Omega level 4, and the Justice League is a 4. So you can bring the Justice League. We'll make it a 600-point game. You can bring the Justice League at 600 is an Omega level 4, but you can't bring anything else on the Omega level. So, let's say that Brother Voodoo's Omega level 1, you can't bring Justice League and him. And that's the idea. It's a simpler way, or the Omega level 3, so Justice League at 300 points is a 4, so you can't bring that, but it's not, you can still, the idea with that is it gives you a way to structure events.
Right.
I'm still not 100% sold on it, and I'm not sure it doesn't just,
Yeah, go ahead.
the reason that doesn't just go down, this doesn't act the same as a ban list, is because you're constantly in flux.
Sure.
And so you can say that, well, if I can't do this, this is the best combination. It gives you a lot more flexibility in how you do things. And so it doesn't quite do the same thing.
It's tactically sound because it does balance out all those elements. But the problem I had with it is it's one more thing to remember.
Yeah.
In the whole,
I don't like that about it either.
Yeah.
But
it's one more thing that's not on the card or dial.
Yeah.
I don't. That's why I'm not entirely sold on it. It was the best idea I could come up with.
Sure. Oh, sure. But yeah, so the watch list.
Yeah, as somebody who, on this very show, had to read an apology for playing the Justice League, and just wallow in all kinds of shame, I'm welcoming it, especially for some guy who's been, the same guy who's been Heroes for Hire to death.
You issued that apology. Did he ever issue an apology for playing
Spiral Nightcrawler?
Spiral Crawler?
That was a half-sealed and luck of the draw for the rest of it, and no idea.
You should not have to apologize for Justice League if he doesn't have to apologize for Spiral Crawler.
The reason why there's an apology is because the previous episode was, no, they're not that bad. Justice League isn't broken at all.
And what I
found. He didn't say that. He said, as if I recall correctly, it was, I'm not sure they're broken.
Whatever. It's fine.
And again, I learned that the way I learn is I learn through doing. So once I did it, I realized what a terrible person I was that day.
And I had an unofficial apology, kinda. I said, yeah, that was overkill, or something.
Actually, the person, the criminal in this whole thing, the one that got away, is actually not here today. It's Paul, who played Heroes for Hire like crazy, and then was just like, yeah, I gotta apologize. By the way, Jeff and Paul are out this week, but they will be back in the saddle very, very soon.
Yes.
But anyway, yes.
And, I mean, granted,
we've all committed our crimes.
Why the apology was necessary. Why the apology was necessary. Mine was for the Ellie Nightcrawler. His was for the Ellie Ravager. Yours was for Batcave.
Yeah, well, I was viewing it as 6 months of work.
Yeah.
So it was like
$5
they're like, hey, bring the craziest thing you can find. I'm like, well, I hear this is pretty crazy.
Why it was perceived as such a big deal was $5 figure versus, what at the time was selling for $100.
One thing I wanted to bring up with that idea of crazy things, we're talking about ban lists. There is one thing in the game that was the most broken thing ever. And I didn't bring this up earlier. And that was structural integrity field.
Yeah.
That was actually, they errated it to the point where it wasn't useful. But that was actually a non-interactive element.
That was an item, right?
Structural integrity field was a
special object.
It was a special object, and
Did it have a cost to it?
No, because objects didn't start having costs
until relics.
And even the first relic, Mjolnir didn't have a cost. Yeah. Structural integrity field meant said that what it did, objects and walls blocking terrain couldn't be destroyed. So you put on a multi-barrier team.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other things that was unpleasant about this was, at the time, if you, one of the older rules of the game, if no figure was KO'd,
mm-hmm.
then the character whose team was fewer points won.
Really?
So you underbuild. So it became a very realistic strategy to just severely underbuild, put the objects close enough to your home base, and then a wall, and then just go bury yourself in there. Stay there for the whole game. Just time out. You didn't even have to play. Just barrier up, barrier down, barrier up, barrier down. You could win without ever rolling a dice. It was even much worse if you were. I mean, you could also. The thing is, you didn't have to do that because you could have a hypersonic character in there, run out, try to hit somebody, try to KO some meaningless piece, and then just go back and hide. And hopefully, if you'd underbuild, and this is actually where, keep in mind, the last two Scarlet Witches, last two main universe Scarlet Witches have both been part of the meta. Because that Scarlet Witch was 35 points, I want to say.
Well, last two is now last three.
Yeah.
Because they have the new one on Brotherhood team base.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot about her. She's not meta.
And there will be another one on the
Avengers.
Avengers team.
Yeah. There we go.
Base.
35 points. Avengers, flight, so she can carry. Prob control, and then she hits barrier second click. Free action.
Yikes.
Move. She was... Yeah.
Yes.
She was unpleasant.
Okay.
So anyway.
The watch list.
Mm-hmm.
So on this list we have, well, the team base's ability to use working together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, roundtable discussion. What can be done to fix this?
Well, I've been saying it for a while, and I think if you remove the move action from working together, that fixes a whole lot. And I think that is a broader kind of narrative to this whole thing. Is one of the problems is too much ignoring of the map itself, too much free action movement, and this kind of falls in with that. The other thing, I was kind of thinking about it today. You might actually -1 damage for each attack given from the team base using working together.
A stacking -1 or a -1 for all of the attacks?
Just a single minus.
I saw it suggested as somebody said you get -1 stats after each attack. So you do a 300 point team base. Your first one might be a 12 attack, 5 damage. Your second one's an 11 attack, 4 damage.
The most extreme example I heard at Gen Con was one of the guys that I met there saying that they should take 1 click of damage for every attack they do. A little extreme.
Yes and no.
I think getting rid of the move action is probably enough. They're still going to be top. They're still going to be meta, but they won't be top. They won't even be close to top tier at that point. Mm. The other thing I would like is some way to. One of the things that I'm getting sick of is no way to tie things down. As a person who likes to play close combat beat sticks, it is frustrating to have no way to hit another character.
Sure.
It's
Skitter. Teen Titans Skitter. Plasticity that characters cannot ignore.
I don't want to have to play Skitter.
I'm just saying.
No, I understand.
There is something.
I do think that the move action would be enough. I don't think it would be ridiculous to make it these getting rid of the move action would probably be sufficient. One of the other ideas I had is working together. This character can use multi-attack, give this character a power action, blah, 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 then they can use the regular. So, in other words, you can either give them a regular action and they can do 2 actions, or you can give them a double power action and do the 3 actions. The 3 actions, or 6 and 300 points. I think that would probably limit it heavily too. I think the move action is the best idea, because I'm a big fan of the simplest is the best. I don't like the ideas to reduce their damage. Structurally it works. It makes sense. It certainly makes comic book sense, but it's too complicated. Sure. That's my feeling.
I've also heard up the point cost. Like, it's not 1 attack for every 100 points of the build. Mm-hmm. It's 1 for every 150 or 1 for every 200.
150, it does get rid of it a lot. I think that would be fine too. I really like the move action thing, is what it comes down to. It's so simple.
It works until you consider things like Spiral, another thing on this list, where you lose the move attack.
But you have to consider everything on this. You have to take everything on the list off of it in order to really think things through. So,
sure.
So Spiral is
because Spiral's not going to be how she is now.
Spiral, I would honestly
we hope.
I would honestly just remove the trait from her
altogether.
Yeah, she's worth her points without it. You don't need it on her. And trying to come up with a simpler version of it is not worth the effort. I think people will still play her at 104 points without the trait at all.
I think she'll see enough. Like, if they just say the trait is not there, you'll see enough backlash that she'll never see play again.
That's the same thing I do with Shatterstar, by the way.
Yeah, he kind of snuck in.
Take the trait off?
Yeah. I mean, a character with a 17 defense, combat reflexes, with charge flurry blades, and they can push and they're still 11 attack second turn. They're worth their points. He's worth his points. Those first 2 clicks are worth the points. You do not need the power. And I don't think he's as broken as Spiral either.
No.
Not even close.
I think I like the fact that he is limited to once per game and lower point cost.
If he was a unique, I wouldn't have any problem with him at all.
that could just be the errata there for him,
For
if
him?
he's even on the list.
He's
not
there
on the list.
yet.
He's not there on the list, but the thing is, once Spiral falls off the list, he'll be on their next version.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it.
Yeah, they're very similar.
So, yeah, it's...
But I think they have a lot of good ideas with him that they should have implemented with her.
Yeah.
Is that limit it to, I've heard once per game, I've heard shared keyword only,
Making it two-way.
making it viable for both teams to go through the portal.
The problem is that really it's that it doesn't matter. After the first turn, it doesn't matter because it's going to be game over after the first turn. After the portal's put up, whole team's going to come through, kill most of your team, cripple your team, and then making it two-way would make it better, but it's not going to change it. It's not going to change the actual flow of the game. The problem we have right now is that most games are over, and most of the high-level metagames are over in 3 to 4 turns.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think with her, I as much as like I said, I'm a big fan of simple, and with her, she is ever worth every single point without the trade at all.
The other one I heard is the second portal. The first one is adjacent. The second portal being within her range, or line of fire, or both.
Line of fire would work. I mean, you could make it line of fire, and it doesn't have to be range at all. It would work. It's not going to make her any more broken than Flash. On the other hand, Kid Flash is one of those
Kid Zoom.
Kid
Flash, the one that you can.
Oh, that one. Yeah, never mind.
The one from there. The only reason people weren't complaining about him was because of the team bases. You realize that, right?
Oh yeah.
So you look at the team bases. He easily would have fallen in, but the thing is, he's still manageable. I've dealt with him.
Yeah.
Oh sure.
He's very good, but you can deal with him.
And so the thing is, but with Spiral, I would be fine with that. But again, I'm simple. I would prefer just to knock the trade off.
See, I go back to the comic accuracy of.
I understand.
It really is her character though. Like that's what she does. I even just watched the Wolverine and the X-Men cartoon a little while ago, and there's an episode where she and Nightcrawler were fighting, and it was just this back and forth where he would teleport somewhere, but she had her portals going, and then she would reach through a portal and like pull out knives or something. It was an interesting fight because that was what she does.
No, I understand, and I agree that it is really a cool effect. And if they made it, I think I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't have a problem with just limiting it as little as possible, only to within her line of fire.
Yeah.
I think alone that means that brings map heavily back into the game because you're going to want.
Yeah, which
So
would be a
I'm
good
okay
thing.
with that.
Yeah, I think range line of fire really.
Well, range or line of fire. Because then say you have an indoor map, you don't have very long of a line of fire. I mean, you have a 6 or 8 square line of fire at most. I'm thinking of like the negative zone.
What's
prison.
her range?
God, I
6.
love the negative zone prison.
Well,
She has a 6 range.
So she could be TK'd up, and then so that's 8 squares, another 6. How close are you at that point to the achieving the same effect?
If you TK, so you're fine at that point because you've TK'd at a 300 point game. You've TK'd and you've double power action. You have 1 power action left. You cannot win the game with 1 action.
Yeah.
Just thinking it all out.
Even with leadership, you've got leadership. You have max 2 actions, which is what you have.
But then you're stacking.
You're hoping to hit that. You almost have to hit that leadership, and then.
Yeah, and then you have to make sure that character who's going to attack going to be your attacker, has to be able to be TK'd up to running shot through or charged or something else.
And then you're also going to have the issue with. I mean, you've already spent another 40 points on a TKer minimum.
Yeah.
So it's really not that. That's not a big problem.
So yeah, I think either range or line of fire or both. I think both might be maybe too much. I mean, it could work. It could work either way.
I like the idea. I wouldn't have a problem with range too, because I don't have a problem with her going around walls or whatever.
Sure.
I think range would be more fun.
Again, another simple fix.
But it is a simple fix.
Yeah.
Okay, so utility belt prep time.
Yeah, that one is
Drake's closing his eyes, putting his hands on his face.
Resources in general are frustrating to me. I didn't have that much. I didn't mind the Infinity Gauntlet
Because it was slow to build up.
Slow to build up. You can actually, it does encourage turtling, but honestly, at this point, we don't have to worry about turtling. So that's
right. It's the exact opposite.
So at this point, we have. And people kept telling me that the hammers weren't that bad. It's like maybe the first month they weren't, maybe the second month, but by the time you get to the third month, your whole team, the hammers basically tell you can't play a defensive team.
Well, and if you sprinkle a little TK on your team, then all of a sudden the hammers are very good.
The hammers are just as broken, at least as broken as the Infinity Gauntlet, and I don't think they're quite.
They're not belt level.
They're not belt level.
Belt level just caters so much to the Alpha Strike.
It does.
Which is a big issue right now.
See, I was thinking if you take out a lot of this free movement and this Alpha Strike potential by just removing that factor, is prep time still as bad?
No. I mean, the big problem with prep time is being able to get all the way across the board.
Yeah. I like it. Again, you're talking comic accuracy. Everybody always says if Batman has enough time, he can beat anybody.
Except Captain America.
Well, right.
Which is a draw.
That one.
It's a draw.
Why?
JLA Avengers.
JLA Avengers.
Okay.
He didn't say Captain America could beat him. He said that he wasn't sure. He said he couldn't beat Captain America. Different things altogether.
Yeah.
It's a draw, essentially.
That's a discussion that we're gonna have to have later.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people would like to say that Captain America could, that Batman could win, but
anyway, going on.
Anyway,
so utility belt prep time.
If I got rid of anything on the utility belt, it would be. I wish it would stop countering my frickin' team abilities. That's honestly the most frustrating thing to me about the thing. I could deal with the +2s, especially in a 400 or 500 point game. It's not that big of a deal. You can maneuver around it. I think you get rid of the Alpha Strike, it's
manageable.
It's manageable, but at the same time, it means you also have to start thinking about Big Barda, because once you get rid of all the rest of this move across, ignore the board,
she comes back.
Big Barda comes right back up to the top.
Yep, where she's probably going to be on the list right after that.
Yeah, you can already see who's next on the list. It's Big Barda, Kid Flash, and Shatterstar.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is, of course, the problem with team-based. This is why it's better to do game balance beforehand, so you don't have to go back and restructure everything.
So prep time is, like you said, I mean, if we don't have moving out like all the way across the board, prep time's not bad.
No, it's moving across the board, summoning crazy people, and then having them hit your characters with that +2/+2.
Sure.
20 squares away, that's the problem.
And going back to what you said, you were saying give Marvel and the Outsiders likability. Suddenly, prep time is meaningless.
I would actually like to see an Outsiders area of effect. That would be freaking amazing.
Prep time would be not necessarily meaningless because you could still prep to Charge Blade's Flurry.
You get a power, sure.
You get to pick a power.
What's the bigger complaint, the power or the +2?
It's the +2s.
Sure.
Because the +2s act defensively and offensively. And that's really the problem. I also think that it wouldn't necessarily be a problem if it's not going to make the belt useless to make you get +2 to distribute among all your stats.
Interesting.
Not a bad idea either.
Because that gets rid of half the problem is that I'm going to hit you with a 13 attack for 5 damage, and you have to hit my 21 defense.
Right.
Well, that's not fun.
From 8, 9, 10 range away.
Yeah, and I can do that from all the way across the board.
Right.
If you say, well, okay, so you have to hit my 18 defense, I can deal with that. You can work around that.
Sure, there's a fighting chance.
The one thing, what was it? Because there's no Thunderbolts-like thing in DC, right?
Justice League. Or not Justice League, Legion of Superheroes.
Slightly different though, right?
Slightly different, yeah.
It's nowhere near as good. Thunderbolts
is better.
Honestly, once you look at it's the next ATA on the list of Roman.
Yeah.
And it's been toned down. Sadly.
I was like, you can give Marvel Outsiders as long as DC gets Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts, I'm fine with that. I mean, honestly, somebody's got to fix Injustice League.
Preferably Thunderbolts as a JSA ATA.
Well, you and I
What?
would you and I,
Yeah.
Too far, sir. Too
you and I would
far.
love that. Okay, both Mitch and I are huge JSA fans, so.
I'm just.
Far.
There was laughing.
Yeah,
there was high fives. Yeah. We're not.
You're gonna have to suffer through that one.
So the ATAs on the list, we have GCPD, which I'm not entirely. My biggest complaint about this one is with what are the other things on the list is the cop cars.
You take away
Other
the
than
cop
that-
cars, it's not a problem.
No, it's not a problem at all. It's not a problem at all.
Well, have you seen the Lex Luthor abuse with the GCPD ATA?
No.
Pull up DC 10th Anniversary Lex Luthor, and then keep in mind that he is a wild card.
Yeah.
So that's how he achieves all this. Plus, he's got his boom tube power. Now, when you stack things like a utility belt and Batmite, who again,
you have to think about that. That we're also looking at Batmite and we're going to change,
Right.
but we're going to both of those. If both of those change, do we need to change Lex Luthor? Do we need to change him?
No, I don't think Lex Luthor needs to change. The whole thing for him is.
I'm just saying this is a way you can abuse.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think it's off the charts.
Mm.
I mean, it's a good abuse, but keep in mind you're giving up theme to do that.
Sure.
So once you give up, if I can force you to give up theme, that's pretty much that's a heavy crippling. Now keep in mind, it's a big cripple. It's a big weakness because once you give up theme, you give up map choice. Once you give up map choice, the problem that's the other thing I would take off team bases. They need to not be they need to not be auto theme win.
They need to count as one character, not 7.
I don't know how I do it. I would say they count as 3 characters. They count as you count as
100 points.
One character for every 100 points in the game, and I'm fine with that at that point.
Yeah.
But you can't getting plus 7 to your map roll.
Yeah.
Is just stupid.
Yeah.
You can crit miss, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I actually did the things one time. It's going to be on average of 4, so it's a difference of 3. A difference of 3 gives you like a 91% chance of winning.
Actually, the first time I played Justice League, I lost map roll. I crit missed.
Okay, so the Lex Luthor that is in question here with this is the Lex Luthor from 10th Anniversary.
Here you go, Mitch.
Lex can use the phasing teleport when he does after actions resolve. If he moved his speed value or less, he may be given a ranged combat action as a free action. So,
He's got psychic.
Moved half of his speed value or less.
that's what I said.
Yeah.
I thought you just said moved his speed value.
Keep in mind, he's nowhere near as. I mean, have they actually fixed Mikhail Rasputin yet?
Not that I've seen.
Yeah.
Right. So the thing is, there's nothing he's doing with GCPD TAA that Rasputin
Except for
isn't doing.
he's shooting every turn. Because it's a GCPD says, or the ATA says, you get to, if you have no action tokens on you, you can move 4 squares.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. Like, if you have no action tokens at the start of the turn, you can move 4 squares. So what happens with Luthor, you get him up to or you boom tube him, go somewhere really far up, get out there, get into the fray. Okay, you clear. Or TK him, or carry him, or do something to get him up. Second turn, he moves 4 squares free range combat action.
It's unpleasant. I still don't think it's unmanageable. I'd have to see it in action, because I can't really, I'd have to see what the rest of the team is as well.
Yeah, you have to build your team around that, and it's 160 points.
Mm-hmm.
And
so you have that plus...
Well, 160 plus the ATA plus minimum...
a figure.
It's 20, it's
You'd
actually...
be playing the motorcycles, for at least one.
Motorcycle.
That's how you get it.
Motorcycles are a good choice.
How many points? 18?
19.
19?
Yeah.
With barrier.
Okay.
It's good, and it might actually need to be changed.
I would say make the ATA uncopyable.
That'll work. That's fine.
That's the solution for that
Yeah.
ATA.
And other than that, we need to fix the cop cars now.
But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
And I think there's a relatively simple solution.
Heroes for Hire.
Might as well talk about it. Let's talk about the cop cars.
Okay, cop cars.
The GCPD Cruiser. I was saying change it, because the whole problem is whenever they use the ram ability, they deal out one unavoidable damage, and you're cuffed to the bumper. You have this long dial to deal with, and it's we saw it in the Golden Age finals, where I don't think there was a single attack roll made with the GCPD Cruiser team. You don't need to. You're right. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, severe curbing of what you should do in this game. So, the idea behind it, I was thinking was instead of dealing one unavoidable damage to the person that you ram, instead, you could deal 2 damage. What does this do? I was thinking from a comics reality standpoint, a comic accuracy standpoint. This ensures that you don't hurt guys like an Iron Man or a Superman with a car. You can't. Somebody who's tough still gets hurt a little bit. Now, somebody who just has willpower, they're taking 2 damage. Pretty significant.
So 2 damage and is locked?
Yes, locked.
I might have a different idea.
Shoot.
Printed damage. They have 3 clicks of 2, and the rest of their dial is 1 damage. So they progressively get, like, the more people you hit, the longer you've been hit,
the jankier
the worse your car is.
That's actually a pretty good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like that better. Printed damage. You just do printed damage. You're doing it.
And is locked.
And is locked. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
It's got to be
that's a big important thing, because otherwise you're just perplexing them up and it's starting over again, and
well,
they're
that's why I
dealing
said
more damage.
printed damage.
Oh.
Like, if you do printed damage.
Oh, deal their printed damage. Oh, you're right.
Yeah. Because it's 2, then 1 for days. If you just make it printed damage, not unavoidable printed damage or penetrating printed damage, just printed damage.
That's good.
I actually like the cuff to the bumper ability.
Yeah, I don't think
plays
that's
with your get in there, lock them down, beat them up.
I like in your face.
I don't think that's the problem as much as it is the.
I think it gives them. I think that keeps their utility. It keeps. They're still a good 68 points, and I would go becomes their printed damage value. I would be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I don't think that's bad at all.
No, they're going to keep the cuffed to the bumper ability is actually worth the points right there, because that does stop your auto breakaway. That does lock down a team.
Yeah.
And that's your lockjaw right there.
Yeah, you've still got 11 clicks for 68 points. You've got Perplex for the rest of your team. You can move it 4 squares as a free action. It's still a great piece. You have not nerfed that piece. You've just kept it from being stupid.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Okay, so WizKids, start listening again and take notes, because we're solving your problems right here.
Yeah, for free.
Done.
Okay,
but I will take royalty checks for every time these clicks get used. Yeah.
The other
ATA?
The other ATA. I don't know what to do about this one.
Just nuke it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from a lot of people. Just scrap it all together and come up with something different.
Yeah, you just got
Heroes for Hire is what we're talking about here.
Heroes for Hire, yeah. What it does is, at the beginning of the game, you get one Heroes for Hire token for every Heroes for Hire character on your team. Once per turn, you can give that character
You can give one character.
One character.
You can basically take one of those tokens and give it to a character to let them act again. Yeah, what to do?
I think
you have to almost go back to the drawing board on that.
It is too good. It is too good, and it is not fair. It's not right. We can go on and on for days about it, but the other thing is, since it's print and play, it's the easiest thing to nuke and doesn't affect anything.
That's very true.
And you're not going to have to learn something new. You just get rid of it, come up with something better, come up with something that isn't stupid.
I really do, and this is just the fix-it kind of guy that I am, but I want to see if there's a way to fix what's there before just saying, scrap it, let's get it out of here. I had an idea the other day, and I don't remember what it was.
That doesn't help us.
I know, and I'm sad because I don't remember it. But it had something to do with
Heroes for Hire.
Yeah.
Possibly
What
Ghost
if-
Rider and
What if it was a way to give a tokened out character another action? So you have 2 tokens on you. You get to do an action and still clear that turn. Not you acted this turn, but when you were about to clear tokens, you can still give them an action.
see, I would be fine if you just gave Masters of Evil, like the ability to act when
Just
they have
push,
an extra
yeah.
push. That alone is worth 7 points,
That could work. Yeah.
and that's still going to make Ghost Rider beastly. It's just not going to make him stupid.
Yeah.
The other thing you could do is you could actually make it so that you could give them. I'd hesitate to do this because I don't like the idea of giving team abilities a power that already exists. But you could also just make it calling Misty Knight's ability to just remove a token. Give a character with the Heroes for Hire ATA a power action and remove a token from an adjacent friendly character with the Heroes for Hire ATA.
So just move a token from one to another.
Yeah.
That could work, but she is Heroes for Hire.
The problem is, my problem with that is it already exists on the team. That's what Misty Knight does.
Yeah.
I think it's a much. I honestly, now that I think about it, just give them Masters of Evil team ability.
There's also the thought of limit what type of actions he's given.
I don't remember where I read this or heard this, but somebody was saying something about, literally taking the theme of Heroes for Hire and saying, yeah, you can have my Ghost Rider, but I automatically get his point cost to my victory pool.
Excuse me, what?
Yeah.
Like, so
You
and I-
offer to, yeah,
you and I are playing.
yeah.
I have Heroes for Hire. I
Uh-huh.
say
You can hire him.
you can hire.
I can hire your heroes,
but I get the victory
but
points.
you get all the victory points right away. And if you can him again, you get him again.
No, I don't like it.
Just saying, it was one of the crazy things that I heard.
It is. It's fun. It's really interesting. It's a cool scenario idea, but it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then somebody builds a Heroes for Hire theme team, and you buy their entire team.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to limit it somehow, but
Yeah, I don't think it's really.
Because
just
then
one
they
of
have,
those crazy
because
things
then they
that I
have
heard.
no more
Honestly,
characters on the map, and you
yeah.
win.
This is one of those things where we could, because it's print and play, and because it's so broken, you could sit here arguing over it for ages, and that's why I just nuke it. Just get rid of it.
Yeah. Let's just shelf that one for now and move on to what do we got next? We did the cruisers. So Batmite.
Stick with Heroes for Hire. Keep going on Brother Voodoo next.
Brother Voodoo. Okay.
yeah.
Man, I like him too much.
He's really good.
He's really good, but I like him too. This is the guy who I had an idea for.
okay.
You get the free mind control only on turns that you've given him an action.
Yeah.
It's not anytime he has one action token, you can do an action.
So in other words,
mind control.
when you place an action token on him, he can use mind control as a free action.
Exactly.
When you place the first token on him, he can use mind control as a free action.
Yes.
So in other words, you finish your movement,
Mind control.
mind control. That also prevents one of the more obnoxious abuses, which is giving him having him mind control characters before the beginning of at the very beginning of the turn.
Yeah.
So you can mind control somebody next to you and mind control somebody next to somebody else. And, you get poison damage.
Yeah.
That's obnoxious.
I kind of like it. That one, I mean, kind of like it still. But I see it is broken, and I see where it needs to change.
He worries me less than most of the other ones. I'm fine with him I'm fine with an errata on him. But I
wasn't, when he came out, he was not, and a lot of this other stuff was not there. We didn't have the team bases. Mm-hmm. We didn't have Batmite. The police cruisers were there, but all the ATAs weren't out yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is before 90% of the things on this list were out. He was the only one there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was not called for change, called for brokenness, called for all this stuff.
Actually, if you recall back, I said he will be on half the world's teams.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
No,
Because I called that.
But at the same time, when Scarlet Witch was opened, we said the same thing.
Right. But the thing is, I will say this too. There were not a lot of people saying that then too, so.
Sure.
And that was more of an estimation on my part. And I was still right. I mean, honestly, I don't think he wouldn't have been on there if the Heroes for Hire ATA hadn't come out. Giving the Heroes for Hire, being able to give Ghost Rider an extra,
or if
twice.
He didn't have the Heroes for Hire ATA, or he didn't have the keyword, he wouldn't have made it on the team.
No, he wouldn't have. That would have been a clear choice.
But my point being, we were talking earlier that once you take out Spiral, once you take out this, once you take out that, there is a second level of stuff that was broken, but now that these other things are out, it's not as bad because there's these other things that are more broken. He was out before these other more broken things were out. Before they existed, before they were even, shown to us.
I don't think he's as broken as your hero, Ben Crawler, so.
Well, no, I mean, really, he is my hero. I love him.
No, I know. I
busted.
So that's where I would put him. I mean, if you want to errata him, I'm fine with it. If he doesn't get an errata, I can live with it. You're going to have broken stuff. What you don't want to have is non-interactive. He's still interactive. He's going to have to get up in your face. He's going to have to get it to a point. For him to have viability, he's going to have to be at a point in the game where you can hit him. He has to put himself out there.
Yes.
And that makes him... he's too good for his points. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying that he's not non-interactive, and that's a big thing for me.
I think in general the Primes have exhibited this level of potency with their powers that
they're supposed to have been. They don't all pull it off.
Not every one of them, but
not all of them.
A lot of them.
Slobo.
Hey, I stand by that. I got him in Sealed. I played him in Fear Itself, and he wrecked house. Well, he didn't wreck house, but he helped me wreck house.
He's a good 60-point character, or whatever. What is he? 60?
Yeah,
whatever point character.
Like he's a good character, but he is not Brother Voodoo. He is not even Deathlock Prime.
Bruce Wayne.
He is not Bruce Wayne.
Those three have been some of my favorites.
I'm actually a huge fan of Vampire.
Jubilee?
No, he's not actually a vampire. The one who can modify all of his stats. Hannibal King.
Oh, yeah.
I've had a lot of fun with Hannibal King.
I would love to have Ravager and Blackfire, but I've never seen him in person.
Ravager. I've seen Blackfire. Actually, John had two of them at one point in time.
Yeah.
Blackfire isn't that impressive. And Ravager is, who cares?
He's anti-cop car attack. Anti-Nightcrawler attack.
I mean, I had to have Beast Boy for my Beast Boy army, but.
Right.
That's very true. But yeah, Prime, and that's another thing with Brother Voodoo. He's the only one on the list that's a Prime, and we don't see a lot of the other Primes on here, but there is a limiting factor with Brother Voodoo that none of these other ones have, is that if he's on your team, that's the only Prime you have.
Yeah.
And now there's not a whole lot of top tier Primes, but we don't know what's coming out next. We have a lot more Primes coming out in the future.
Yeah.
And you have to choose one or two. You have to choose one or the other.
We were about to have an Iron Man Prime.
That is what I said, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spiral is unique. I couldn't remember if she was unique offhand.
Mm-hmm. Which is a limiter, but not as much of a limiter.
No, it's one of those things where, again, so I'm okay with no nerf to Brother Voodoo.
I still think he has to have taken an action token. I think that's fair.
And if that's the nerf, that's fine. I don't want it gone entirely. He needs to be able to mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need the free action mind control in one sense or another.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I think once you get rid of the rest of the stuff, it's not going to be that bad a deal.
No, he's really not.
So,
there's nothing else broken on his dial except for that.
So what do we have left?
Batmite, I believe, is the last on here.
That's another real tough one.
Batmite is
ridiculous.
I almost think you're at the point where you kind of have to just print out a new card, come up with all new powers, because isn't he like half special powers?
Yeah. More or less.
Okay, so what do we got? You're my friend, once per game.
You're my hero.
You're my hero.
Yeah.
Once per game, give Batmite a free action, and choose another friendly character. That character is Batmite's idol.
Now,
and that's
the only two that are up for discussion here are You're My Hero and Let Me Help. The other two are not.
Well, You're My Hero is
the trait that you just read.
Right.
Yeah, but that's going to trigger a lot of other things.
Right.
So it's Let Me Help is it's your...
So, well, before that, we have the powers that are not being thought over is am I bothering you, which is his attack power he has for 1 click.
Mm-hmm.
Batmite can use Incapacitate. Characters that Batmite targeted with this power last turn can't target Batmite or Batmite's idol with an attack until your next turn.
Sounds brutal until you realize he has it for 1 click and he has an 8 attack.
Oh yeah, that's not a problem.
No. And then he has a defense power called Get Me Out of Here. Batmite can use super senses. When he uses super senses to evade an attack, you may place him adjacent to his idol or in any square within 6 squares in line of fire. So it's a neat get out of jail free card. Or not free, but get out of jail on a 5 or 6.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. There's nothing there that's...
No, those aren't bad. So Let Me Help is the movement power that's up for grabs, or up for question. He has it for his first 2 clicks. Give Batmite a move action. After actions resolve, roll a d6 that can't be re-rolled. Place Batmite's idol in a square adjacent to Batmite. On a result of 1, an opponent may choose the square and deal Batmite's idol 1 unavoidable damage. On a result of 2 through 6, you choose the square and Batmite's idol may make a close or ranged combat attack as a free action, but can't be given a non-free action until your next turn.
So what's happening right now is people are doing that at the end of their action.
Right. If you just, as good as he is, let's see, let me look at the wording here. I hate to make it hard, but you could just say, on a result of 2d6, you may choose a square, and Batmite's idol may make a close or ranged combat attack as a free action, but can't be given or have been given a non-free action. See, I don't really like that.
I think, what would be an easier one. You'd have to reprint a card.
You kind of have to.
But on a result of 2 through 5, you place them next to. On a 6, then you place them next to and give them the attack. Make it a 1 out of 6 for an attack. Right now, you have 5 out of 6 chance that you're going to make a free attack.
Mm-hmm. Well, that would do it.
Where you have a 1 out of 6 chance to screw it up.
Yeah.
I think swap that. Make it a 1 out of 6 chance to actually get the action. Still keep the 1 on there that will deal damage.
Mm-hmm.
So if you roll a 1, it's bad. If you roll a 6, it's great. Roll a 2 through 5, it's just moot. I mean,
it's really good.
It's still really good. You're moving from anywhere to anywhere.
That'll work. Yeah, I mean, just making the 6 where the free action comes up, that's fine. That'll actually work fine.
I mean, because when you look at what's on the map right now, you're looking at Shatterstar.
Mm-hmm.
Shatterstar with Batmite being the idol.
Mm-hmm.
So Shatterstar teleports across the board, taking Batmite with him.
Mm-hmm.
Batmite makes a move action, brings Ghost Rider as his idol right next to him, and Ghost Rider gets to make a free close combat attack. Okay? Mm-hmm. Great. Then Heroes for Hire, do it again. So, or if he has the belt, he's got Flurry, something ridiculous.
Well, we got rid of the Heroes for Hire. We're just nuking Heroes for Hire, so you're not going to pull that trick off.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think which is one of the other reasons why getting rid of Heroes for Hire gets rid of so many problems.
It really does.
And I just think that we have to admit that was a mistake. That should not have worked that way. Let's move on.
Yeah.
That pretty well takes us through, right?
I think I'm agreeing with the Heroes for Hire nuke. As long as these other things get nuked, or get changed as well.
Yeah, no.
Because just nuking that's not going to help. And just nuking all of them
because like I said, the minor change we made to this doesn't really help if Heroes for Hire is still in play.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heroes for Hire will not stand as it is.
What did we decide with the belt?
Pretty much, I thought the consensus was as long as all the free movement's going away, then it's fine. And they said that too. They said there may be some things that don't get changed at all. These are just things that we're considering.
Yeah.
I think out of these things, the belt is one of the lesser offenders.
Yeah.
With Brother Voodoo.
Like I say, if anything's changed on the belt, have it stop nuking my team abilities. especially the special reason that bothers me is that the one way to get to affect the belt is to use outsiders. Well, I nuke your outsiders. That's no fun.
No.
That's why you gotta have two.
That's why I packed to him, yeah.
Yeah, so now when you're outsiders, like the cheapest outsider's like 74 points.
Run Watchmen.
Pardon?
Run Watchmen.
Oh, it's
the same thing.
Watchmen prevents me from being modified. Not from you from being modified.
I thought that they were the exact same thing.
Oh, no. Watchmen's nowhere near as good.
So, I mean, depends where we're going. If we're going Golden Age, you can go to, which set is this? Collateral Damage, 37-point katana.
Yeah, actually, some of the katanas are really good, actually. So, or fairly good for their time.
Yeah, if we're going modern, let's see,
pretty sure it's got to be,
Arsenal from, Streets is 72 points.
Oh.
And not that awesome.
And he's a terrible character.
Yeah.
He's awful. You are just asking to lose.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I don't think requiring somebody to play two outsiders to nuke. I honestly think once you get rid of everything else, part of the thing is I've had my poor
flailing
arms. What is the Shumagora nuked by stupid bat belts? Yeah, too often, and I don't. Oh yeah, I've got power cosmic and mystics, and yeah, we just ignore all that.
No, you don't.
Sucks to be you.
No, you don't.
You take 2 mystics damage from my
trait
from the Trinity of Sin. No, yeah, you don't have mystics. Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I think that will come up to the fore right afterwards because I've seen it nuke so much stuff and it's just unpleasant.
I think is that limited by range at all?
Nope. Well, it's limited by range. And I think it's limited by range, but it's.
Well, there you go.
Oh yeah, but okay, fine. Can we just say that I don't like it?
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, I think that is going to do it for this week. Drake, we thank you very much for coming by.
It was a joy to be here. I'm just sorry we didn't get to talk about all the fun stuff that's come out this week, because,
well,
meta
becomes
an important topic.
You are always welcome back.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you for having me.
Hey, this is the best part of the show. Mm-hmm. This is where I get to read a list. So strap on, get ready. Here we go. Enough of that. Anyway.
Strap in, sir.
Well,
Strap
you can edit
in.
it. You can edit it.
Nope.
Every time I say it,
we are.
No.
Yeah, we're going raw in this.
I have unpleasant images in my head.
All right. Enough shenanigans. Here we go. This is how it works, guys. Guess what? For being a feedback damage listener, there are perks.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that, but now you do. You see, we have some friends that make dice. And as a perk for listening to this show, we're going to let you in on some info on how to get some very, very cool dice.
Because we love you.
Because we do. I do. Tyler does. And
of course I love you.
Yeah.
Of course I love
you.
You.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go on HC Realms.
Not that guy.
Hey, listen up. I want you to go to HC Realms. I want you to look up the user Streets or King's Disciple. Check out their wide selection of custom dice that are extremely impressive. I've been super tempted to get them myself.
You need to be getting some.
I do. Some. You got some?
I have some.
Oh, that's right. You bought some at Gen Con.
I did.
Yeah, they are amazing. Now, after you look at it, go email them and tell them what you want. They have prices listed. Go to probcontrol@gmail.com. Tell them what you want. And guess what? As a special feedback damage bonus, mention us. You'll get free shipping. Not bad. Not bad. All right. Also, the other parts here that you gotta know about. You want to tell us something, you agree with our ideas, you hate our ideas, you hate us, you love us, let us know. Email us at show@feedbackdamage.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/feedbackdamage. Hit Twitter, go to @feedbackdamage. Go to youtube.com/feedbackdamage, or hit us up on the web, feedbackdamage.com.
And you can see pictures of my dooms.
Feedbackdamage.com.
Alright, good night, guys.
The next time I'll do the whole thing in Squish.